So this will be the work session for the commissioners to give input back onto the plan. We're at that stage in the plan now. We have had a handful of steering committee meetings. Park Board has seen it a few times. So we've had it out there in the public, and that's probably what you're seeing on social media a lot. Are those iterations, but this is, the plan's more fully developed, and it's time for the commissioners to give their input to revise for the final draft.
So at this point, tell us a little bit about what the plan is that you are presenting to commissioners.
Yeah, it's a fully comprehensive plan. We haven't done one of these since 1992, so it's a long time in the making. When we started out, we were looking for a 10-year plan. And part of the goal here is to have our department eventually become CAPRA accredited. The basis of that is to develop a Parks and Recreation comprehensive master plan. So that's where we started. It was also part of the strategic goals. The other piece of the strategic goals for the city was to look at the indoor aquatics, which is a major piece of this, which is getting a lot of traction, a lot of interest from the public. So we're really looking at both of those together, and we're putting it all in one. So you will see this plan kind of have an aquatics heavy feel because of the desire from the public to have indoor water. And we're really looking at pretty comprehensively, should we do aquatics only, or should we do aquatics with a rec center? What's the best location? And that's really, come out through City Park, and we're kind of going to go over why that is tomorrow night. Why that's considered the best location. And by the way, we're not the first one to come up with that. They came up with that when they did a study in 2008, and it was 2-to-1 to put it in that location. So really, from a Parks and Rec business sense, that is probably the best location. If you look at the overall park design, we're trying to be really cognizant of how everybody feels about that, including the green space, which we're basically keeping it even. It shows that we've added an acre of open space, but for all intents and purposes, we haven't reduced it at all by even looking at putting a building in there.
And the indoor aquatics part has probably become something higher on people's list of things that they want with the closing of K-State Sanatorium. Is that correct? Yeah, there's actually the Strategic Facility Improvement Plan done in 2015. There was a statistically valid survey done with that one. And the irony is that was done right before they announced that they were closing the natatorium. So there was no knowledge that the natatorium was closing, and indoor water ranked at 43% as a highly desired feature. Turn around, they've closed, that's now being torn down. Right. And our statistically valid survey indicated that that's now up to 63%. So, and 73% value indoor water is something that the Parks and Rec department should be focused on in the next 10 years. So, the reality of this plan is what started out as probably a 10-year goal, which is what most master plans are. We're probably looking at a 20-year plan, just because of the size and scope and how far behind we are as a city. That's a big statement there.
Well, I mean, we're going to be looking at least $100 million in facility and park upgrades. Yeah, and that's
a big ask from the community to be able to get that.
Totally, and they'll have to support that. But the reality is, we probably can't afford that in 10 years. So we'll stretch it out to 20, and we'll knock things out. Any plan like this is a living document. You need to update it annually. I have the intention of doing a statistically valid survey every 2 years, and to roll that into the updates. So even as we go, you could see that plan modify through these changes. I don't have any intention of thinking what we settled on today in year 19, it's going to look exactly the same as what we talked about. The idea is to make a plan and follow a path. So we update that as we go. Trends change. Pickleball is all the rage right now. Right. Eventually, pickleball will not be the rage. Right. You look at sports programming. Adult softball in the 80s and 90s was huge. It's all youth sports now. And adult softball is one of those that's been in decline for the past decade. So trends come and go, and part of updating that is to make sure that we're in line and we're building facilities that are adaptable to whatever that next trend is. So It's really just a plan of how to move forward as an organizational unit.
That's awesome. I mean, that's just like, there's so many things people probably don't take into consideration of what all Parks and Rec does. A lot of people just think of it as Parks and Rec, like the sports activity, the actual, like the activity teams, and not all of the facilities and that sort of thing that you guys do handle as well.
Yeah, so obviously we contribute to all parks, recreation facilities, which the new rec centers, we're doing SECO as a development now. That's the 2017 Quality of Life tax. That's finishing up that tax is trail development in SECO Park, which would be the ball field and the tennis courts. But, when you take into the zoos part of under our umbrella, the Flint Hills Discovery Center's under our umbrella, all parks, all recreation. So it's a pretty big enterprise. Last year, our expense budget was $10.7 million. Our subsidy, so we earned back some revenue, but our subsidy was $8.5 million. Now, I think there's room in that, and this plan will speak to kind of the financial obligations. I think there's room in there for us to be more efficient and close that gap, even bringing on new facilities. I have an anticipated goal of, I would really like us to be in a cost recovery of 35 to 40%, which would be about another $1 million to $2 million under last year's expenses. Right now, last year we were at 22%. So we've got some lofty goals. All this will be included in the financial and operational piece. It'll look at our staffing levels. It'll look at our market penetration. So it's a lot of focus is on indoor aquatics and some of the park stuff. And again, it's easier to go interpret concept pictures than anything. But there's really a lot of depth to this plan that we're barely scratching the surface on.
Right.